It is Market Movers on a Thursday. And of course, we have Captain Jack Andrews in studio with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Dan. Looking forward to this all week. So let's get rolling.
Wow, that is the highest of compliments we could possibly get. We'll start with the order book. Of course, the captain is here. So it is, of course, Captain's Orders today. We're going to play a fun game between a square and a sharp. You decide who is who. We call it Grade My Angle. Golf also now available in the Sport Trade app. We're going to talk a little bit about the Shriners Children's Open that's going on right now after we got some great tips from Amanda Rose during our Twitter Spaces yesterday. We're going to check in on some of those predictions. And this is what I'm really excited about. We're going to talk about how you're going to approach your Major League Baseball playoff trading coming up tomorrow. Of course, 4 games, including my Philadelphia Phillies, near and dear to my heart. We're going to be trading that game live with our CEO and founder, Alex Kane, in Studio S tomorrow at 4. So make sure you tune in for that as well. But of course, the man of the hour, Captain Jack Andrews, thanks so much for joining us.
All right, let's get to it.
Thursday Night Football, of course. What everybody wants to talk about tonight, we have the Colts and we have the Broncos. We'll pull up the markets here on Sport Trade for you on our screen. Right now, the Broncos trading at $61.50 per contract. You can buy them at $62. The Colts trading at $38.50, available for purchase at $39. Broncos favored by 3.5 points on Sport Trade. You can get that number currently at 49.5. That may have been updated. We're going to talk about that in just a second, Jack. The under, though, has seen a ton of action today. It's up at least $2 since 10 a.m. this morning, trading at 55.75, buying at 56.5. One thing I know we wanted to talk about, Jack, was that Denver minus 3.5 and its comparison within the marketplace.
Right. So one of the things that I like about Sport Trade is you have different strike prices.
Yeah.
So Denver minus 3.5 is the market price that's out there, and the line at Sport Trade is very competitive with what else is out there in the market. And then you have Denver minus 10.5, so you're giving them another 7 points, or taking away another 7 points rather. And then, but the one that I found interesting was Denver plus 3.5. So you're basically almost like you're getting a single game 7-point teaser right there. You're going 3.5 to minus 3.5 to plus 3.5. So I used a tool we have at Unabated where I can take the unabated line, which is our true north, our true market price, and I can see what the alternate line should be priced at given that true north. And it came back at minus 264, which do a quick conversion in our heads, and that comes out to 72.5. It's currently for sale, buying price at 72. That would be slightly EV. Now, when you factor in the commission, that makes it slightly back under, but it's probably the best price on the screen right now.
So we're looking at it right now. This is unabated screen. We've got the unabated line, the over 41 at minus 109, the under 41 at plus 109. You're saying Sport Trade's price. Well, I'm sorry, that's the total.
Yeah, go up, grab the spread there.
Sure.
And it would be, there you go.
Yep. Okay.
So
now we got it.
Minus 3.5 plus 109. If we were to convert that to, and if you want to do it, click the calculator in the top right-hand corner.
Sure.
And drop down to alternate line. There you go. And go ahead and go back and click on the the unabated line, which is just beyond that window. There you go.
Okay.
And type in plus 3.5 in the alternate line, and that'll give us what the true price should be of plus 3.5 if that minus 3.5 plus 109 is.
Sorry, I have to reach for my keyboard. Yeah. Go ahead.
It's very technological studio here. There you go, minus 264. Now, if we were to convert that to Sport Trade odds, that works out to 72.5. And the current price on Sport Trade is now 71.5. It's gotten better. The traders are crazy. But yeah, no, so, I mean, this is a good play. This is the best play that's currently on the Sport Trade app right now, is taking 71.5. And you're basically getting 7 more points. You're going from the minus 3.5 to plus 3.5. You're getting both of the threes. The 3 is the most valuable number in NFL football. You're getting both of those threes. So it's a great bet. In fact, if you don't mind,
no, go for it. We're going to get traded right now, live on the air. Captain Jack is jumping on the trade that we just walked you through. Denver plus 3.5.
Yes,
We're making history. Our CEO, Alex Hammond, you probably can hear, is clapping outside the studio right now. He is so juiced up. I'm surprised he didn't just run in here and give Captain Jack a kiss on the mouth or something like that.
I had to get through the geolocation because I can see Philadelphia from out the window here, and there we go. It's
we're
in.
About 50 yards from the Delaware River, so we do have some problems. He's in.
It's in.
It's in. There we go. Hey, some live trading here from Captain Jack. We're going to make sure that we follow that with bated breath throughout the game. One of the other markets I did want to talk about, and we're going to play a game here that I like to call Grade My Angle, right? So we have the sharpest of the sharps and the dullest of the dulls sitting next to each other. So here's what I'm thinking, right? And now this market has moved since I came up with this idea earlier today. So perhaps it won't be as great. But the under 43.5 this morning was at 54.5. I believe now it's at 56. I can double check here. Why don't I do that real quick? In fact, I should have just done that where you were doing
56.
Your thing.
You're
56. Right. Okay. So it's moved about $1.50 today. Here's my thought, Jack. I want you to grade this angle of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor, out. Javonte Williams, no longer playing football this year. Matt Ryan is playing in the game. And finally, the Broncos ravaging about 16 points a game, which hurts me to say. Some people know this, some people don't know this. Brandon McManus is my cousin. I love Brandon McManus. Justin Alton, the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. I am also from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. He played football at CB West with my brother. I've known Justin Alton most of my entire life. It pains me that their offense is this terrible. But at $56, right, the equivalent, I'll say, we have a bit of a larger audience today. So let me say minus 127 is the equivalent. Most of the sports books that I have seen have this under at 41, 42, maybe 41.5. So you're getting an extra point and a half. I think I am willing to pay a little extra for more points. So that's my play tonight. Captain Jack Andrews, grade my angle.
Okay, so here's the best part about playing this game.
Okay.
For you, Dan, is the NFL is the most efficient sport. So you're never going to be too sharp. You're never going to be too square. And you are, I would say, you're like a butter knife right now. You're just sharp enough to cut through something that's easy, but it's not going to do the work through something.
I've been called a lot worse.
So Dan Butterknife Coob. So this isn't bad. The unabated line for this price would be minus 122, which would be right around 54.5. It's currently 56. It's there's slight negative value, but not much. And here's the thing: your analysis is very qualitative. My analysis is very quantitative. I'll give you the truth, Dan. I don't know all those players you named. I go by the numbers. I go by the market.
We've talked about this before. We watched a game together earlier this year between the Rams and the Bills, and you looked at me and you said, "Who's the Bills quarterback?"
Yeah,
I think it's Josh.
I think I called him like Josh Andrews or something.
Like
or
that.
Yeah,
a cousin of yours, a distant cousin, perhaps.
Yes.
Yeah. Explain that to me.
Look,
in the best way you can.
In the NFL, there's only one position that matters, and it's the quarterback. So I do probably know the quarterbacks more than I know anybody else. But if you were to ask me who the two top running backs are on a team, I will quickly Google it because I probably do not know. Because running backs are very replaceable in the NFL. The difference between RB1 and RB2 is negligible. So as a result, I don't really keep track of position players other than the quarterback because that's the most impactful. I play the numbers. I play the market. I look at what the sharp market says, and I look at what the rest of the market says, and I say, okay, they haven't caught up to this. We need to go ahead and grab this number.
It's so interesting to me because Rufus Peabody, one of your partners at Unabated, puts out a unit grade every week. So he is ensconced in positional players, and you take the complete opposite approach. That's fascinating to me.
But he's ensconced because he has an algorithm that basically crawls through the play-by-play of every game and then spits out that information. I don't think he could name most of the players. I hope he's not offended by that, but he's probably not watching.
Okay, so my angle is akin to a butter knife, and I suppose
slightly sharp.
Slightly sharp. I'll take it. It was a very popular view on Twitter, so I guess everyone is becoming maybe a bit of a better in that sense. How are you approaching tonight's Thursday Nighter?
So if I was approaching this in a vacuum, I had no idea what was going on with these two teams, I would start to look to the under first because Thursday night games, the offense doesn't have as much time to prepare.
Yeah.
There are often injuries at play, or at least fatigue at play, travel at play. Having to go to Denver for a Thursday night game, that's extra tough.
Yeah.
So
I've run Red Rocks before. I know that it's gassy up there.
Yeah, and so at this point, it's Denver or the under is the approach I would take. And I think the market has adjusted. This line was 43.5 earlier in the week. That's the sport trade price is at that, but the actual price to buy and sell has been adjusted. And you pass through 43, that's kind of key. Any odd number in the NFL is key because ties are much less likely. Once you get down to 41, you got to start thinking the other way. So if this should possibly drop even further, down to 40.5, that would be, as I like to call it, a bridge too far. That's where I start to look to go the opposite way. And the sport trade price would probably reflect that as well. It would still be on the 43.5, but it would be so advantageous that I'd be saying, let's look to the over.
Two of the lowest scoring teams in the National Football League. As I mentioned, the Denver Broncos averaging 16 points per game, and I believe the Colts are, I've got it here, only averaging, Indianapolis is averaging, Dan, do your research. How about it? 14.3.
All the way at the bottom.
All the way at the bottom. So 14.3. So they're not even getting close to this total prior to kickoff. So that is something we will be tracking. Of course, make sure you're out there. If you're in New Jersey, trading on Thursday Night Football. Something else that we're really excited about is we have introduced golf into the app. So let me pull up on our handy-dandy app here. Our golf market for the Shriners Children's Open. Again, as I mentioned, Amanda Rose was on here with Greg Rappaport on our Twitter Spaces yesterday, handing out all kinds of great tips and great tricks. And as it looks right now, Patrick Cantlay appears to be the top trading player at $12.50 to buy. Sungjae Im, who was mentioned, up there at $7.50. Siwoo Kim up there as well. Aaron Wise at $4.50. Who, if I remember correctly, our CEO Alex Kane had said he averages about 68 as a first-round score. So a really good opportunity to get in early on him. Max Homa, fan favorite at $3. And of course, if you're unfamiliar with how we trade golf here at Sport Trade, as the tournament continues, the prices of these players to win will rise and fall, and you can trade in and out of them whenever you see fit. Okay. We'll get back to our conversation here with Captain Jack Andrews. Sport Trade has now been out, Jack, for about 3 weeks. And if you've been following us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, then you have seen that we are really trying to hammer home something very specific to us as a sports betting exchange. And that is the liquidity that's available as you are going through our betting markets on either side. Through 3 weeks, I know you've been using the app. How have you found the liquidity and your ability to get down what you want at a moment's notice?
Yeah, Dan, it's been great. There has never been a time where I have put in a bet and had a spinny wheel, which is a common occurrence for any sports bettor. And there's always enough liquidity. Look, the way I trade when it comes to in-game is I'm taking a little bite. I'm taking a bite, I'm taking a bite, I'm taking a bite. Sometimes I'm taking food out of my mouth. I don't. That analogy went nowhere. But
we're so stuck on the butter knife that now we're just living in the kitchen.
So
that's all we're doing.
But the point being is sometimes I want to take back a little bit. I don't need as much of that, and it's perfect for that. There's always enough of a chunk of liquidity out there that I've never run into any kind of limit, which is great.
Quick comment from our previous segment there. White Light Bets telling me that's not sharp. That's what Jack said. Very dull. Well, somewhat dull. The sharpest of dull you could possibly get. The benefits of using Sport Trade as it pertains to the ecosystem, right? We've been telling people, sports betting exchanges are good for the ecosystem because of a couple of reasons, right? Efficiency, price discovery, low margins and fees. How have you been able to leverage all of those things, Sport Trade's pricing and markets, to maybe better inform your betting as a whole?
So I think at this point, Dan, it is going to be a pendulum swinging. So in the future, it's going to swing to a point where Sport Trade might be my sense of truth, my source of truth, that I say, Sport Trade has the most efficient line. Right now, probably I'm swinging the other way. I'm saying, you know what, I can find value at Sport Trade. And that's what I've been doing. I've been going on the app, and I've been trying to find the value where, similar to our plus 3.5 here, that line is just slightly not where it needs to be, and I can take it. Now, what's going to happen is I take those, and the traders are going to see that action. They're not going to know it's me, but they're at least going to know that there is resistance, and they're going to start to shape their lines a little bit sharper. So down the line, I can use Sport Trade and say, okay, well, Sport Trade says this price. Now I can go over to one of these big recreational books, and they're the ones that are a little bit off, and I'm going to grab it from them. So it's all part of that ecosystem of trying to find the sharpest possible number, and Sport Trade is really speeding the plow towards that.
We talked last time you were here about the general public being the best better, right? Because you are finding the most efficient point by the time a game kicks off, tips off, whatever. If you are starting at a place with Sport Trade where the price is already better, how does that then affect the pregame markets prior to tip or kick or whatever?
It absolutely affects them in that you can't quite get the same read. So in other words, if you have something like Sport Trade where that number is highly efficient compared to the rest of the market, and right now, look, Sport Trade, we're attracting the sharper bettors, right? The price-sensitive consumer.
Right.
And so as a result, I think Sport Trade is going to lead the way in terms of price discovery and finding the sharp number. And then it's up to the bettor to kind of say, oh, okay, that's such a narrow spread that my opinion has a little bit more weight at Sport Trade. If the straddle is just a half a dollar or a dollar, then it's a lot easier for them to find their own opinion into that market, whether they're sharp or not. It's sort of like you with your under thesis. 43.5 is one of the best numbers out there.
Yeah.
You can't find 43.5 anywhere else. You're going to have to pay a little bit more juice to get it, but it's still far better than we were able to get in New Jersey a month ago.
As it pertains to sharps trickle down to the casual bettor, is that sort of what we see, right? Because you said the sharps will help come in and shape that number even further. And for a casual who may come in Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, what have you, is that a trickle down effect that is even more amplified on a platform like ours?
That's a tough question to answer. I do
Reaganomics, and you didn't think you were going to get Reaganomics on the show,
But the point I would make is, what is the recreational consumer doing with the information they're finding from Sport Trade? I don't know that they're using it yet to be sharper. We have a lot of aspirational bettors at Unabated that are always looking for the keys in the market signals and things like that. For the recreational consumer, their market signal is often like, 40% of the tickets are on this number and 80% of the money, and that's just tea leaves. That's just things that don't make sense. And
does that mean anything?
No, it doesn't. Okay. It doesn't. And I could, we only have a short amount of time, but I could go on and on about why that doesn't mean anything. But the most of it is you don't know what number was bet at. The line's moving all over the place. Let's take that total example again. Well, if 80% of the money was bet on the under when it was 43.5, that's something. But if 80% of the money is bet on the under when it was 41, that's something else. That's, the number is now 41. Everybody else that got that great number that's in the past. You missed that train.
Right.
And so you can't use somebody else's signal because they bet a different number. And these markets are very efficient. That 2.5 points is meaningful.
I'm curious, as obviously somebody who is somewhat newer to the space, couple years now, getting into betting professionally. How do you do that? How do you do that building a following? Presumably since PASPA, right? A lot of professional bettors are now much more out in the open about what it is they do and sharing information. And what are sort of the barriers of entry into, not to sound exclusionary, but, the club that exists for folks like yourself?
So the first thing I'll say, Dan, is the best bettors aren't known. I'll admit it. It's. I know guys that are far sharper than I that are out there that they don't want to be known. They don't want people to know their face. For the longest time, I didn't want my face to be seen because I was still lurking around casinos and making various advantage plays, and I still do. It was during the pandemic that I basically decided, you know what, I don't know when I'm going back into a casino. I might as well make some videos and I'll put my face out there. And it kind of took off.
So what was the reaction the first time you made a video with your face on it?
Well, everyone knows me from my Twitter avatar, which is a large black man in a military outfit. He's a rapper from the 90s, techno dance, Euro dance rapper called Captain Jack.
As if we didn't know that.
Or as if.
Go on.
And so that was the first comment was, wait, you're a white guy? That was the first thing. But it was, once you get it out there and you kind of get over that barrier, I think there was more plus side in getting my face out there. Look, I've had a lot of sports books that have tried to treat me extra nice so that they wouldn't get on my bad side. And I actually tell them, I said, don't treat me any different. I don't want to be treated any different. I just don't want it to be, I'm doing it for that reason. I'm not doing it for clout. I was doing it because I think the industry needs a little bit more education.
That's a great answer. And we talked about it last time you were here. There's never been more information, but there's never been more bad information out there as well. Couple comments. Oh, God. Butter Knife Dan.
Uh-oh, that's going to stick.
Just like I couldn't even think of a pun. I don't even want to get into it. Tomorrow, playoff baseball begins. We're going to be live trading the playoff slate in Studio S with CEO and founder Alex Kane and also Vijay Dewan from Pine Sports, who joins us on every Friday. So we're really excited for that. You were saying yesterday on the Unabated live stream, Jack, that you were concurrently trading 15 games yesterday.
We tried.
So somewhat successfully.
So the first test was can the Unabated live odds screen, which shows the in-game prices, moving lightning fast, can it hold up across 15 concurrent baseball games? And it could. In fact, at one point, this is a good story. At one point, we weren't getting anything from FanDuel, and I was like, "Oh, sorry guys, it looks like our FanDuel line is down." No, we went to FanDuel. FanDuel couldn't keep up. They had crashed.
Oh wow!
So we were doing better than they. We had a better day than they had. But we ended up with a couple different positions, and we really started to focus on just a handful of games. And would have some of the users. They would tell me who's due up in the next half inning. Is the pitcher looking fatigued? Is he yet reaching the end of his pitch count? And so here's the best part is we had one great trade. We had Oakland minus 1.5 because according to the Unabated calculators, and we found value on Sport Trade. And so we bought in at 19 and 27, so an aggregate of 23. And
about 15 minutes apart.
Yes, it was
So
about
19
about an inning apart.
Right. So if you're watching now, we have more viewers than typically right now. So I just want to walk you through this screen here. Up top is the Oakland Athletics run line minus 1.5. So when we say a contract, think of it as if Sport Trade is a stock exchange, right? So when we say a contract and a price, $19 is the price of one contract. So we use implied probability here at Sport Trade, meaning probability equals price. So everything is priced between 0 and 100. If your bet happens, your contract settles at $100. If it does not, it settles at 0. So what we're looking at here is basically akin to 5 shares of this outcome of Oakland Athletics minus 1.5 at $19 per share. I'm sorry, sir. Go on.
And so we started to watch this game closely, and it was very uneventful until the bottom of the 7th when Oakland scores 2 more runs, and they take a 3-0 lead in the game. And at that point, we were trading at like 82, 83 around there.
81.5 it says here.
So that's where I sold out. I sold out 3 contracts, and all I did for that was to get back the amount that I had invested to make the rest of it a free roll, so that whatever happened, good or bad, it wasn't going to cost me any money. And that's sort of something you can't do in a traditional sports book. You can't just take your stake back and let the rest ride, at least not in game anyway. And then I think you have it up on the screen there. LA or the Angels scored 2 runs in the top of the 8th, and the bet went to the trash.
It did. But you did something very interesting there, which is something that you really can't do elsewhere, especially when you consider cash out options at a sports book, right? Which is you sold back your initial investment, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Right. And you called it a free roll. We talked about this Monday with Anita Marks from ESPN. We did this for the Packers-Patriots game over the weekend as well. I bought the Patriots to beat the Packers at 13. Aaron Rodgers subsequently throws a pick 6. Now they're trading at 28. So I sold 13 to basically break even. And the money left over is, as you mentioned, a free roll. So this is something that, to me, especially for something as volatile as baseball, right? This presents a really interesting opportunity in high leverage moments where if you're up and you're up and you're up, you can ensure that you're not going to lose any money whatsoever. Now that's a tough one. I mean, Mike Trout hit 40 home runs this year. He missed 40 games. Shout out to Medford, New Jersey, or wherever he's from in New Jersey. I don't know. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. So a tough draw for you. But I am curious how you do approach baseball, because we have 4 MLB baseball postseason games tomorrow, 3 midday. So as I've been saying, we're going to live trade it right here. So make sure you're watching us on YouTube, watching us on Twitter, on Facebook. We're going to be right back tomorrow at 4. So as these things are unfolding, as we get into the 6th inning, the 7th inning, things are getting tighter. People are getting sweatier. The perspiration's out. I'm putting on deodorant as you know, the Phillies go to the bullpen. How do you approach that, and how do you handle volatility as a sports trader?
So one of the great things about baseball trading is there's enough breaks in the action that you can stop, pause, and think and figure out your plan. And so that's what I like to do at the end of each half inning. We have some tools on Unabated that are in-game betting tools that'll price out all the alternate line markets, and they're very useful for sport trade because the line on sport trade is set before the game, and so you can know what the updated price is, whereas if you're just comparing it to a sports book, it might be a far different number in terms of run line or total. And so I'm able to kind of run those tools, decide for myself, and then I look at the lineup. I'm saying, okay, the top of the lineup's due up or the bottom of the lineup is due up. This pitcher looks fatigued, the bullpen's overused, things that kind of you go through a game book as to what might happen coming up that you want to take action on. And that's where I kind of make my decisions. I do find, Dan, I get a sense of FOMO that I don't want to sell and then have the price rocket up after that, or I don't want to not sell and have it go down. It's that part kind of gives me a little
anxiety.
Yeah.
I have, look, we've been live for 3 weeks. I can tell you, Jack, with 100% certainty, I have developed trading anxiety.
Yeah.
We talked about a Phillies Cubs game from a week and a half ago that kept me up at night until about midnight. Because I developed anxiety. I just didn't let it go, and I went all the way down to 0 when I could have saved a little bit, could have sold out. As you're watching a game, right? You said you have FOMO, you don't want to miss out. If your initial lean is in the red, and by the red on Sport Trade, I mean if you are under your cost basis for however much you're in per contract, how are you approaching that? Are you more willing to buy more to, again, lower that cost basis, depending on, obviously, situational? Or are you willing to sell and admit, this is just not my night?
So that situation there with Oakland, I ran our tools while I was on our live stream yesterday and found that it was still a good bet. It was a really good bet because when originally, I wanted to go in and sell out of our Oakland position because I was telling everyone on the stream, I don't think Oakland's going to win by 2 runs or more. So I went in to sell it and saw that bet, selling it was not the best play, but buying more was the best play. Similarly, yesterday, we also had in the Phillies-Houston game, we had over 7.5, which clearly, as that game went on, looked to be dead on arrival. And Phillies scored a couple junk runs towards the end of the game, and that at least got it back up into the 20s to trade out of, which is where we had bought it in at. And so that's what I did. I took a small loss on that, like I forget how much. It was like $50 total loss with all contracts. And that, look, that was a bet that I knew was not going to win. So I was ready to say, I'm out. It's clear the Phillies were all focused on the postseason. Houston was focused on the postseason. They're just playing out the rest of that string.
Playing out the string. Well, if you're new to the concept, if you're watching, you've never looked at a sport trade market, download the app right now. Even if you're not in New Jersey, you can still take a look at our markets and use Sport Trade as a price discovery tool. And that's another thing I wanted to ask you, Jack. If you're not in New Jersey, what are some of the advantages of just perusing the markets, right? Obviously, you're here, you can place trades, but as you mentioned before, you are still capable of using it as a price discovery tool.
So the best part about this, Dan, is the Sport Trade odds system is implied probability. So do you want to know what the odds are that this team is going to win this game? Just open up the Sport Trade app and you can see the odds right there. Everybody complains that it's not in U.S. odds. I'm on gambling Twitter. I know. I hear what they say.
I have access to our mentions. I've seen it.
Yeah. So, but the point being is this is where kind of the reverse of the converse is true. In other words, you can see the probability without having to do the conversion from U.S. odds to probability to find out what the market is saying. This is a great way to see what the market is saying without having to do. And look, a lot of people use ESPN FPI information from the box score. Dude, that's not. It's pretty off. Like,
cut it out.
Yeah, so you don't want to use that as your true north. If you want to use a true north in terms of what the probability should be, just keep the Sport Trade app open off to the side, and you can see 68, and then goes down to 56, and back up to 74, and that's just all percent right there.
We're going to take another quick look at the Thursday Night Football graphic. Anybody watching on Twitter, anybody watching on YouTube or on Facebook, if you have any questions, make sure to hop into the chat, and we'll answer them quickly. We'll take one last look at the pricing markets on Sport Trade for Thursday Night Football this evening. Colts at Broncos, a battle of two completely inept offenses that I'm super excited to watch, even though I will probably watch it. On the winner's line, the money line, Colts at $39, the Broncos at $61.5. That spread, again, minus 3.5 for the Colts at 52. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that has to be backwards. Broncos at minus 3.5. And Colts at plus 3.5. And then the over 43.5 points at $45. The under 43.5 at 56. So as we said earlier, that under still somewhat of a value. But again, on Sport Trade, you're not going to see an adjusted total line. What you'll see is the price actually move back and forth. Again, we will be right back here tomorrow. Captain Jack, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it as always. We love having you here in Studio S. We're going to do a bit of a home and home. So tonight, I'm going to be hopping on the Unabated live stream. Do you want to give the folks a preview of that?
Sure, yeah. We're going to have Dan on. We're going to find out a little bit more about Dan, a little bit more about his broadcast career and how the transition's gone from broadcast to sports betting broadcast.
Just what the people want. More Coob. That's what they
want.
We
won't call you Butterknife Dan, though.
You can if you want to. It's okay. Thank you again, sir, for being here so much. Again, back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock on Market Movers. We will be live trading the MLB playoff baseball slate. You can catch us here at 4 o'clock every day on Sport Trades, Twitter, YouTube, and what's the, this happens to me every episode. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook stream. Thank you so much, Jack. Same time, same place, Monday through Friday, right here at Studio S. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.